Campfire mockery. The flames crackled and hissed in the center of the outpost courtyard, casting flickering shadows across the curved walls of the Grand Forward Base. A group of off-duty alien soldiers lounged around the fire, their exosuits peeled halfway off to cool their translucent skin in the humid night air. The Earth moon hung low on the horizon, a pale reminder that this planet was far from conquered. "Listen to this one," Corporal Ezek said, tapping the human datapad they'd intercepted. "There's a story about a man who turns into a giant wolf when the moon is full. A werewolf, they call it." The group erupted in laughter. "What is it with humans and turning into animals?" sneered Vela, the squad's heavy gunner. "Vampires, zombies, demons. They are obsessed with death and monsters. They even believe in an invisible man that haunts dreams," chuckled Zik, a younger Recon trooper. "Freddy." Another wave of laughter. To the Gran, human mythology was a source of endless amusement. Despite their ferocity in battle, humans still clung to stories of ghosts, curses, and ancient evils. The Gran, with their technology and reason, considered such things absurd relics of a primitive species. Private Gaul tilted his head. "But didn't that Recon unit go missing near one of their old ruins last month?" "No trace left." Vela scoffed. "Terran ambush. Primitive tactics, sure, but clever. Nothing supernatural." Zik leaned forward, grinning. "Still, you ever notice how many human stories involve something hiding in the dark? Like they expect something to be watching them. Because they fear what they don't understand," Ezek said. "It's psychological. Makes them unpredictable. Dangerous, sure, but not mythical." A heavy silence fell as a new figure stepped into the firelight. Commander Varnak. The squad straightened instinctively. Varnak was a legend among the Grand Forces, a veteran of the first wave against Earth. Scars crisscrossed his armor, and one of his 4 eyes had been replaced with a tactical implant that glowed dimly in the firelight. "You find their myths amusing?" he asked, voice calm but edged with something harder. The soldiers glanced at each other, unsure how to respond. "We were just analyzing their culture," Ezek said carefully. Varnak walked closer, staring into the fire. "I once thought the same, that it was just culture, folklore." He paused. The flames danced in his reflection. "Until I saw one of their myths standing 10 meters away, watching my squad disappear one by one." The fire cracked loudly. No one spoke. "I've read their stories since," Varnak continued, voice lower now. "Not for amusement. For survival." He turned and walked away, his footsteps fading into the dark. The soldiers sat in silence. The fire no longer seemed so warm. The laugh stops. The fire had burned lower, its light now a faint shimmer against the metallic armor of the soldiers seated around it. The laughter from earlier was gone, replaced by the heavy silence Commander Varnak had left behind. Zik swallowed, eyes darting toward the shadows beyond the courtyard. "He was just trying to spook us, right? Old commanders love their war stories." Corporal Ezek didn't answer right away. He stayed into the fire, jaw tight. "You ever seen him talk like that before?" "No," Vela muttered. "And I've served with him on 3 campaigns." The silence deepened until the crunch of boots on gravel returned. Varnak stepped back into the firelight, holding a small black data cube. "You want to understand human myths," he said, placing the cube on the ground before them. "Then listen." He tapped a button. The cube lit up, projecting grainy holo footage into the air, a flickering scene of thick forest at night. The recording showed Grand soldiers in formation, weapons drawn, sweeping the area with scanners. "This was taken during the first incursion into the Carpathian region," Varnak said. "Rugged terrain, low visibility. Initial scans showed no human military presence." On the projection, the squad advanced cautiously. Their comms buzzed with idle chatter. Then, a burst of static. One by one, the soldiers vanished. No screams, no signs of struggle. One moment they were there. Next, gone. Only the last soldier's cam remained, shaking as he ran, breath ragged. Then the camera caught something just for a second. A humanoid figure, tall and still, standing between trees. Its eyes glowed faint red. The audio distorted as a deep whisper filled the feed, guttural, ancient, and indecipherable. Then the feed cut out. The projection vanished. The fire crackled in the silence. Varnak looked at them. I was there. That was my squad. 17 trained soldiers, gone in one night. Zig's voice cracked. You think it was a human? Varnak shook his head slowly. No, I think it was something humans fear too much to name. Something they remember only through stories. Through myths. Vela straightened, skeptical but uneasy. But myths aren't real. They are metaphors. Warnings. Stories. Exactly, Varnak said. Stories passed down for reasons. You think humans made up these creatures to scare children? No, they made them to prepare them. He stepped closer, gaze sharp. We'll laugh at vampires, werewolves, demons. But what if those aren't fabrications? What if they're echoes of real things humanity fought and survived long before we ever arrived? Gaul's voice was barely a whisper. So you believe them? Varnak nodded. After that night, I believe humans don't tell myths to entertain. They tell them to remember. He turned and left them again, vanishing into the darkness outside the fire's glow. This time, no one said a word. The monster of the mountains. The next night, the squad gathered around the fire again, unprompted. No laughter, no jokes. They waited. Commander Varnak arrived without a word, armor faintly glistening from the evening mist. He sat among them this time, closer to the flames than before. For a moment, no one dared speak. Then Zik, voice barely above a whisper, asked, "What happened after the feed cut?" Varnak's gaze drifted toward the tree line. "I ran," he said, "but not out of fear. Not yet. At first, I thought it was sabotage, humans jamming our comms and picking us off with cloaked troops. But then I saw it." He paused. The soldiers leaned in. It moved like nothing I'd seen. Not even predators on the Gorsai moons moved like this. Gliding, silent, deliberate. It didn't chase me. It followed. Vela shifted uncomfortably. A human mutant. Bioenhanced. No, Varnak said flatly. Something older. I found shelter in a collapsed human chapel. My motion tracker kept pinging, but every time I looked, nothing. I started to think I was losing my mind. His voice lowered. Then it spoke. The fire popped, as if reacting. It didn't use language the way we do. It slithered into my thoughts. Words I shouldn't understand, but did. Cold. Final. It asked if I knew what trespass meant. Zik looked sick. What did you do? I stayed very still, Varnak said, and I listened. He leaned forward. It talked about blood, about memories in the soil, about how humans once fought it back, trapped it in stories, forced it into myth. But now that we'd broken the surface of Earth, torn into places we didn't understand, we'd awakened it. The squad stayed, wide-eyed, as he continued. It told me it wouldn't kill me. It wanted me to warn others. So I crawled out when the sun came up. My armor was covered in blood. Not mine. Just there. He pulled something from his belt, a tiny, ancient charm on a rusted chain. A cross, shaped differently than any grand symbol. I found this in the chapel. Took it with me. Not as proof. As protection. Varnak stood slowly, holding the charm in the firelight. The Grand Command dismissed my report. Said I suffered neural trauma. That I imagined it. His voice hardened. But I know what I saw. And more importantly, humans know it too. That's why they don't mock their own myths. That's why they teach their children to fear the dark, to be careful in the woods, to stay out of old ruins. He looked each soldier in the eye. They don't tell stories to scare themselves. They tell them to survive. Then he dropped the charm into Zik's trembling hands. You might need this, Varnak said, disappearing once more into the dark. The fire burned low. The wind howled through the trees. And this time, the squad listened to it. Respect the night. Days passed, but the fire never felt quite as warm. The Grand soldiers no longer laughed at the human datapads. The horror stories that once served as evening entertainment were now studied with hushed reverence, as if decoding ancient warnings. Even Vela had stopped scoffing. He'd requested all the human files on folklore, especially those from Eastern Europe. Zik still wore the charm Varnak had given him, now tucked securely under his collar. He touched it more often than he realized. Izek sat at the comm station one night, scanning old Earth transmissions. He found a human radio broadcast, static-filled, ancient, and translated the words with some effort. They come from the woods when the wind is still. He shut it off. That night, Varnak returned. No announcement, just the sound of boots crunching gravel again. The squad looked up from their datapads. No one was surprised to see him, only relieved. "They are watching us," he said. No one questioned him. Not anymore. He gestured toward the tree line. Ever wonder why humans didn't send their elite units to defend those ruins in the Carpathians? Why they left them abandoned? They wanted us to go in, Izek realized. Varnak nodded. Exactly. Humans don't just use weapons. They use fears. They let their myth do the bleeding when they don't want to. Do you think they control it? Zik asked. No, Varnak said. They don't control it, but they live with it, in a way we never could. That's what makes them dangerous. A gust of wind rushed through the base, whistling across the walls. The fire flickered violently. Everyone turned toward the noise, half expecting to see glowing eyes watching from the brush. They saw nothing, but no one relaxed. Later, when the fire was low and the others had gone inside, Zik stayed behind, the charm still clutched in his hand. He heard a faint sound behind him, barely audible, a branch snapping, nothing more, but he didn't turn around. He just said quietly, "I respect this place. I understand now." The silence that followed felt satisfied. At dawn, a human scout crouched silently in the forest, eyes fixed on the Grand Base. Camouflaged head to toe in ghillie mesh, breathing slow and quiet, he watched them stay. He saw the alien soldiers keeping close to the light. He smiled. Somewhere behind him, deeper in the woods, something ancient watched too. Neither the human nor the entity made a sound. There was no need. The message had been delivered. In the alien camp, Varnak stood once more at the edge of the fire, whispering a final warning to his men. "Don't laugh at what they fear," he said. "Because humans, they don't fear fairy tales. They fear things they've survived.